went from one of the ACC's best chances at making the college football playoff to the ACC's biggest disappointment in 2 weeks flat. I feel like we're talking about a car guy who has all the measurements. This bad boy they're tapping their hood goes from 0 to 60 in 2.7 seconds flat. Only it's the opposite. This bad boy went from 120 miles an hour to 0 in 2 seconds flat.
Yeah.
In 2 weeks flat. Losing to UVA and Georgia Tech in back-to-back weeks is about as disappointing as you can be with all of that talent at North Carolina. And this is the ultimate, this to me is more insulting than if I were just to stand up here or sit here behind this microphone and say how terrible they are. If I were just to sit here and say North Carolina is not a good team, they're trash, their players aren't good, they haven't recruited well, their scheme is bad, to me that would be painful, but it's also that's just a hater move, right? The shame of it is, the more stinging part of it is I still right now think North Carolina is the second most talented team in the ACC. That should hurt way worse, right? I still think the Tar Heels are the second most talented team in the ACC, behind only Florida State, and they built their team in the portal almost entirely. So the stinging part, right? The biggest, I don't know if it's insult or just the harshest truth. That's probably the way to say it. The harshest truth is that you are not getting the most out of your talent. And it's not the first time this has been North Carolina's story. Right? There are other fan bases that will openly admit, rival fan bases, other ACC fan bases that will openly admit they do not and cannot recruit as well as the University of North Carolina can. But they will hang their hat on, but we develop our players better. Mm-hmm. We won't beat them in the recruiting rankings, but every time we match up on the field, it doesn't look like they're that much more talented than we are. That should sting. You are recruiting well. You are transfer portaling well. Let's not forget, the Tez Walkers, the Nate McCullums, they grabbed those guys out of the transfer portal. So not only are they recruiting well out of high school, Drake Maye, I don't know if people realize this, was a flip from Alabama. That doesn't happen often, right? Nick Saban letting one of the best recruits in the country slip through his fingers. Oh, by the way, this year one of the things they're trying to overcome is a lack of elite talent at quarterback. Nick Saban let Drake Maye slip through the fingers because North Carolina grabbed and brought him to Chapel Hill. You're recruiting well, you're transfer portaling well, and you're losing to UVA and Georgia Tech in back-to-back weeks in horrendous fashion. Play the sound one more time. I like the way that went. Exactly. The lesson was not learned against UVA. The coaching staff has to answer for this. I say it often. I say it about every sport. I especially say it about college sports. Coaching and motivating is easier after a loss. Right? I've been in those locker rooms after bad losses, and what do you say? If we could bottle this up and make you taste it every week, if you could bottle up the feeling, the taste in your mouth after a horrendous loss and just give you a little bit of that taste after every win, you'd never fall for a trap game, you'd never lose a game you shouldn't, you'd never become lackadaisical or overconfident. Well, North Carolina, can you imagine what it felt like in that locker room after losing to UVA a week ago? You're at home. You let UVA, a team that came in dead last in so many ACC statistical categories, a team that was questioning everything. Tony Elliott, their coach, had yet to have any kind of semblance of a signature win, and they got it against you. In that locker room, Mack Brown and that coaching staff had to have all eyes laser trained on them. Right? Every coach, what do we do to make sure we never feel this way again? And somehow the coaching staff said, all right, listen to me. Here's what we fix. Here's how we go. Here's why we're going to be locked and loaded and ready to play at the beginning of that Georgia Tech game. They went out there and what happened? The same darn thing. Drake Maye after the game on if it slipped away.
Just gotta keep the foot on the pedal. One drive that stands out to me, I think, after hitting Nesbitt over the middle, we were up 3, ended up setting for a field goal, we ended up missing. Just gotta make something happen. And at the end of the game, we got a chance for a score, wins it. I'm proud of myself, and if they give the ball back to me with a chance to win it, I gotta go make a play, make something happen, and kind of will this team to victory. So at the end of the day, we had a chance. We gotta make something happen on offense. I feel like you're moving the ball, just little things here and there that ended up biting us. Holdings were huge. Penalties. Had a few false starts. Just little things. I told the guys they were playing their butts off up front. We ran for 270 or something. Throwing it around. I feel like I was throwing it really good. Had a few low ones, but at the end of the day, I felt like we on offense we gotta go and win at the end of the game. I know Tez is a fluke play, but just praying for him and hope he'll be all right.
By the way, Tez Walker did go to the hospital after the game, but it's been released all clear. Looks like it's going to be a positive ending there. Let's be clear, Drake Maye. The offense did your job.
Yeah.
42 points. You heard him say Woodbury run for 270. It was 267, but I'll rounding error, that's fine. Yeah. Threw it for 310. You scored 42 points. The defense could not stop Georgia Tech. Haynes King, their quarterback. I told you on Friday, if you let him hang around, he is good enough to beat you in the end. And I told you to just ask Miami. Turns out you didn't even let him hang around. You let him push you around all the way up until the end where he continued pushing you around. They didn't just let him hang around. They got pushed around. Haynes King was super effective passing the ball, and Dante Smith, their running back, along with Haynes King running the ball, were moving the ball on the ground at will.
Over 200 yards in the fourth quarter alone on the ground for Georgia Tech.
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
Over 200 yards on the ground for Georgia Tech in the fourth quarter.
Yeah. And they were down, by the way.
Yeah.
Do you realize how disrespectful that is to a defense?
Mm-hmm.
When you are behind in the fourth quarter and you say, we are going to run the ball to get back? That means the clock is winding the entire time. There's no incompletions to stop the ball. Like, so much about that game was disappointing for the University of North Carolina. Mm-hmm. And now you have to wonder whether you've just wasted Drake Maye's time on campus. Matter of fact, we're going to talk about that in the next hour. So be sure to stick around because this North Carolina team has more questions to answer than we could possibly ask in the last 10 minutes.